what they're being taught. Not a single belief or sacred that could be taken with us. This journey borders the edges of even thought. Grossly unique, no two paths could ever be called the same. Just outside the most conventional wisdom, we dream into being the bridges from other planes. Celebrate life, you never know when the sliver could be the end. Resume nice, past neighboring Rome, stick with alien kin. Never straight flight, wanna head back? Hella wait right, on the beat, in the mic, in the blink of an eye. I'm a Voyager skeptic, the Calamine type. Standing on the vast at the very edge of the void, the great abyss. An emerging past, an uncertain future, a place of stake and risk. Not the first or last of his class, trying to move away from the weight of bliss. I'ma do me. You want me to be like you and just live a lie. Everybody wonders what they could do with another body. Few wonder what they could do with another mind. Knowledge too deep, truth too vast, and master to minimize. Grand unified with splash within a rhyme, just enough information to blast your inner eye. Merged in a pool, with a reject nerd and the fool. Many others out on the outskirts, is Greydon Square Rap's version a tool? I'd admit forever on this road, the rhyme lord beings who have access silly. I was there an eternity ago, now I gotta walk to get back to the city. Standing on the vast at the very edge of the void, the great abyss. An emerging past, an uncertain future, a place of stake and risk. Not the first or last of his class, trying to move away from the weight of bliss. Standing on the vast at the very edge of the void, the great abyss. An emerging past, an uncertain future, a place of stake and risk. Not the first or last of his class, trying to move away from the weight of bliss. Deep out of range, separated from normal physics or even time. Where you gonna be when they seeking out to destroy you? A sentiently energies eating between the lines. See, I arrived from the beast. Lies, I invite you to speak. I am light who can think. Cyanide through the beat. Me, I advise you to leap. I died for the peace. Not known for the chase. So I got gone with the haste. Not long for this place. Pot strong to the face. Now I lock songs in the case. Y'all falling in disgrace. Frozen in awe of the crossroads town. Lost in the speed where it all slows down. Across from the seas where the lost knows found. Cosmos bound.
Was some of the philosophy that helped you create the landscape for the environment that you present in Majestic Comics, some of the philosophy for that world that you've created come out of this track specifically?
Mm-mm.
What a development of no, like what a development of character. Um, by the end, he's a savage. You know, viewing what he views along the way. By the end, your last verse, dude, your last 8 bars were like the pinnacle of the. It tied everything together. What you've learned, what you become, what a monster you become from what you've seen. Looking over the expanse, I was just picturing. I was picturing like the Midwest, like canyons and crevices and gray, sandy, very low treed area. I created like a bit of a world inside my head of you sitting there pondering all the things. Very cool, dude. Lyrical fitness for sure. I'd like to hear your end of what that character was experiencing through the development. Because a lot of it was hard for me to. I was kind of like wrapped up in the beat and the lyrics all in one, as
Mhm.
more like one sound that wasn't lyrical or a beat. It was a mix of the two. I
Yeah.
got lost in that. I felt it in my heart, so I didn't catch every bar. But what was the what? There was obviously character development. Well, what was kind of going on through your head in the process of writing that?
So the song that actually made me write the landscape for things like the comic book Majestic Comics and everything like that was a song I did called Omniverse. You guys, I think, probably
Yeah, we
played
did.
that.
That was
Yeah.
that was the first song I heard of yours.
Okay. Yeah. It tends to be an entry point. But it was one of those things that really set the groundwork for what I would later write for Majestic, which
Right.
is our sort of
Right.
framework of storytelling.
Okay.
But as far as this song is concerned, it was about a sort of perspective or a character who goes to this plane of conscious awareness, right? I talk about these different types, right? Type 1, type 2, type 3. Well, this was
Type
type
4,
4, right? This was the
Yeah,
beginning
I
of
heard
type
that. Yeah.
4. And so I if you listen to my music in sequential order, right, there are a lot of what I call legacy songs. Like DMX invented the concept of the legacy song. Maybe he didn't, but he made it famous, right? He did Damien 1,
Yeah.
2, and 3. And because of that, when I was young, I remember I wanted to do like legacy songs. So if you listen to Type 1, there are legacy songs that are on Type 1 or Type 2 that directly relate to Type 1, Type 3 that directly relate to Type 2. And then, of course, on Type 4, I started, referencing stuff that I did all the way back on Type 1, which is 12, 14 years later. So
Right.
that was sort of the journey that this had been born out of. And then during the song, I was talking about being on the very outskirts of thought, where even the rules of logic and reasoning break down, where you are left to infer with no reference point to infer, right? Like,
Right.
and so there, when I tried to write that song, there's a line in there where I say, everybody wonders what they can do with another body. Few wonder what they can do with another mind. And it's a way of like saying it's not a physical move you make. It's a mental move that you make.
Right.
It's a
right.
psychological move that you make. It has nothing to do
That's what I
with what
think
your
God is.
body is doing,
That's- I'm a firm believer that's what God is in the traditional sense, is a development of your mind to a certain extent where you don't need God anymore.
Yeah.
And I've got there. God was great. It's good when you're low and out of options, but once you've reached your mind's developmental climax, some people never reach it. Some people never try to expand to reach it. You can find God or whatever it is through whoever. You can find that happiness without religion. And you don't religion is good for some people, don't get me wrong, but I find development of mind can transcend religion, and it sounds like the character that developed in that song kind of transcends all things religious. I also saw online that you were like a notable atheist. That's one of the things that like they promote you with on Wiki. It's one of the first things that comes up when they see you. So
Yeah.
what was that? What was that all about?
So ultimately, it's a way for people to sort and categorize my style of art and my style of sort of
Gotcha.
philosophical direction. I think because I reject. So I've said this very recently, but I say it in somewhat of a cheeky sort of way. But I say I'm an atheist in name only, right? And
Right.
what that means is that if a human being can tell me that God is incomprehensible, if a human being can tell me that God is beyond description or definition,
Yep.
and a human being can tell me then that they can describe that thing that is
Right.
indescribable,
It's
I'm going to
ludicrous.
reject the thing that they are
Yeah.
describing. And the problem
Yep.
with that is that everyone thinks that they can describe God or this being with
An atheist,
words.
they can describe an atheist. They can't even properly describe it.
No.
Yeah.
And I think what I try to articulate is that if a human being can describe a God, I reject it. If
Yeah.
it can be described by a finite, limited entity, and you're telling me that it's infinite and unlimited, I reject that. And so
Yeah.
I think if there is something, it is beyond the comprehension of articulation, and therefore it makes
Yeah,
no
but
sense to try to describe or articulate it.
right, because the greatest philosophers can't come up with anything that you're already past.
Yeah,
So it's like why bother listening at that
right.
point?
And
Sure.
my attitude is, I used to be deep in the culture wars of atheism and Christianity and stuff like that. It's kind of where I cut my teeth, and I had a lot of debates about
Oh yeah,
religion.
I remember you telling me that you used to show up to events and just spit bars outside the events to all these like atheist convention guys.
Dog, they used to invite me into the conventions. They used to pay me to come and
Fucking
perform
awesome.
there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I like
yeah.
to hear some of those bars from back in the day. You still
Oh
got
yeah.
a hard drive with all those bars?
Oh, dude, I got all my music that's online. You could go all the way back to my original music, and I'm just gonna pull this up real quick. I'm not gonna play anything, but if you go here and you obviously go to my discography, these are all the albums that I've released. My very first
Studio Link, yeah.
album, this one right here, has a lot of like atheistic, anti-theistic, very much
Gotcha.
questioning about gods and religion, Islam,
Right
Christianity,
on. Okay.
the
And
whole
how old were you
nine.
when that came out?
26, what was it,
Yeah,
2007?
so
I was born in 81, so what is that? Yeah,
yeah, so a lot's
26.
happened since then.
Yeah.
Lots happened since then.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But that
Yeah.
album, I would argue, is a big atheist album. I would argue that Type 1 Cartesian Scale has a lot of atheist music in there, black atheist, man-made
I noticed
God,
these are all
Stockholm
like
Syndrome, stuff like that.
Yeah. 20-track albums. Is there skits or are they all
No.
full tracks?
They're all full tracks. There's one skit
Oh,
on here.
shit.
Yeah, and in fact, most of my albums don't have skits at all.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, this is a 18 song album because one of the tracks was a particular skit. But
Right on.
if you look at that, most of my albums are, you know, that one's a little bit shorter, but like this one right here, 22 tracks.
22 tracks.
Omniverse 30.
Wow, 30 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Spitboss skin tapes that I did with all the MCs and producers from back in the Spitboss days was 45 tracks, two 15-track albums and a 36 tracks. In a 6-track album as well. There's 36 tracks total. Wicked way to spend time, dude.